went under the wheels.
Perfected.
Welcome to Under the Wheels. I'm Matthew.
I'm Gabe.
And I'm Austin.
And today we're talking about two quote-unquote science fiction unquote movies. The recently released, well, I guess not that recently released
They're
movie.
from this year, though, which is better than
Well,
nothing.
VFW is, what, 2019?
I
Theatrical
think
release
it came out really early this year.
really early this year.
Okay.
It feels like it came out 5 years ago, but I remember watching it. Like, I think I first saw it during quarantine.
So we're going to talk about Possessor and VFW, and I call them sci-fi because they're that kind of sci-fi movie where it's like very loosely science fiction, but still technically is science fiction. Definitely Possessor feels more sci-fi than VFW, but I think VFW is kind of sci-fi-y.
I'm surprised you went with science fiction and not like horror, because these are horror-ish movies, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't really get a lot of sci-fi from VFW at all, but I haven't seen it in like 6 months, so
I think it's just
maybe even longer than
because
that.
of the synthetic drug thing, where it's like a new drug has come
That's
out
true.
in the quote city unquote that isn't described by name with these characters, and like everyone's dressed up like a Mad
I'll
Max
preface this
reject.
like I might forget like very specific points of VFW because of, like I saw it like 10 months ago.
And I
don't
saw
know,
it,
whenever
like,
it came out
3 hours ago.
Whenever it was first yeah, so you'll be much fresher on it than I am. So which one do we want to start with, VFW or Possessor?
I'd prefer to start with Possessor. What do you guys want to start with?
All right, we'll do Possessor.
That's more fresh. That's more fresh in my mind. I watched that a few weeks ago.
Gabe, tell us about Possessor.
Possessor is about... so in the future, there are assassins called Possessors who possess the body of a strategic host and then use the host's body to assassinate someone. And these assassinations are very expensive, and they're usually done... Usually the targets are very, like, wealthy, important, or high-profile people, hence the need to, possess a host in order to get close to them. And the movie follows a possessor named played by Andrea Riseborough, sorry, who, her name's Andrea Riseborough, just like the actress. And, she gets roped into this very, very high-profile, high-paying contract that, things inevitably go sideways once she starts to lose control of her host. And also it's about capitalism.
Yeah, directed by David Cronenberg's son, Brandon Cronenberg. This is his second feature film. And so how long ago did you see it? Because I saw it.
I saw it last week.
Okay, so it's still really fresh.
And I
in your
wrote a
mind.
review of it for the site as well.
You did, which I avoided reading because I knew we were going to talk about it, and I didn't want it to color my opinion in red and blue, and purple and green occasionally. I was going to ask Austin what he thought about Possessor, but I guess I'll get started.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm good to go.
Okay,
if you want me
Austin,
to.
what
I
did
don't
you
care.
think about Possessor? So
I was really hyped for it because the trailer for it is awesome. And I tried to see it in theaters, but they closed down right before I had a chance. I will say, I like it a lot. I don't think I'm as high on it as Gabe. It's a great premise. And I feel like they don't really go all the way with how like interesting the premise is. But yeah, I think it's really good. I interested to see what you guys have to say about it, and I can kind of riff off that.
So as far as the movie goes, the first thing I wrote when taking notes on the movie, because it was one of those movies that as I started watching it, I just like immediately I was like, all right, I kind of want to put down my thoughts because it got my brain thinking. Like the fact that the movie starts off and it doesn't tell you anything. I didn't see the trailer, so I didn't know anything about it. Movie doesn't tell you anything about what happens. It just kind of starts with shit going in the back of someone's head in an extreme close-up. Okay, cool. Let's see where this goes. The special effects in this movie were fantastic. I know that I read later that they tried to do as little effects visually as possible. They tried to do all practical effects. And there are certain things in the movie, specifically when it came to showing how the possessor takes over the mind of the possessee, that I thought were very cool visually and made my mind hurt trying to think exactly how they did it. I think I know kind of how they did it, but some of it just like drops of water going, defying gravity and going up. I was like, I think I might know how they did that, but it's still like, what the hell? So I thought that was really cool. And this movie felt very under the wheelsy in the sense of the way that the lighting was through most of the movie. It was very like extreme, hard tinted red and blue. It inferred a lot of information, that especially in the beginning, it was a lot of inference, and then it gets a little bit more explicit as it goes forward, but you still have to kind of make those connections yourself without it telling you. A lot of silence, a lot of long shots, and a lot of shallow depth of field, which I kind of am getting sick of, like really shallow depth of field movies, but it worked really well in this movie. So those were kind of like my initial thoughts on the movie. If you guys want to comment on those.
I think we should I know Gabe is probably the highest on it. So what are your thoughts on the movie, Gabe?
Oh yeah, I loved it. It's the best movie I've seen from 2020, at least thus far. I like David Cronenberg's movies quite a bit, although a lot of his classics are pretty meat and potatoes in terms of how they're made. Like a lot of the practical special effects and stuff, and a lot of the ideas are really creative, but he seems a little short on ideas technically, in terms of how he does his camera setups, his lighting, his editing, and so on. His son, though, is, he's got the same tendency towards, really interesting and gruesome special effects and graphic violence and stuff like that. But he also has a lot more, he's a lot more confident and expressive technically, because Matt, there is a lot of shallow depth of field, but I think it was used selectively enough that it wasn't
used very smartly.
Yeah, it's not like Lost River, where it's just all shallow depth of field and you want to kill yourself because you can't see anything. It's all just like, I feel like I'm not wearing my glasses when I watch that movie.
Nobody's seen Lost River except for you, Gabe.
That's true. No, probably no one has seen Lost River except for me.
That's Ryan Gosling's movie.
That
right?
is Ryan Gosling's movie.
his Nicholas Winding Refn knockoff.
Yeah, it is, and it's all shallow depth of field.
Real
it's
quick
so
on that,
irritating.
One quick thing about that, I remember because Ryan Gosling was ripped pretty hard for basically like plagiarizing Nicholas Winding Refn. And I remember Refn came out and he's like, well, like him and I are like best friends. So sometimes like when you're best friend, like when you're like spend enough time with your best friend, you essentially become the same person. I'm like, wow, that's a glowing recommendation for your friend's movie.
I know. I mean, it's very kind of him to say that.
I mean, considering what he thinks about himself, yeah, it's the highest praise he could give.
I know, that's true.
It was great because it was just like me, but not as good.
But yeah, I mean, like on Possessor, it's really stylish. It looks really good. It mixes its pace very well. Like it's very slow and deliberate for a lot of it, but it can amp up the intensity on a dime and do it very well.
Yeah.
I really liked a lot of the sequences that, were experimental is a bad word for it, but like Matt, you were talking about the showing the feeling of the possessor taking possession of her host and also losing control of her host, and kind of the battle of two brains in one body that goes on throughout the movie. I thought that they did a really good job, and they really did a lot of thinking outside the box in how they conveyed those sensations and made this feeling, which is kind of alien. I mean, we don't really live in a world where you can insert your brain into other people's brains and possess them. But they made it feel palpable. Like the sensation came through really well, I thought. But yeah, I thought it was fantastic. I mean, the performances are all really good, especially because Andrea Riseborough and the guy who plays the host have to do like so much emotional acrobatics where they're like smiling and then crying and then they're angry and then just jumping around and stuff.
Yeah, Christopher Abbott, you're right, Austin. Yeah.
Yeah, and Sean Bean is just such a dick, and it's awesome.
His ears look like elf ears.
I love
his
Sean.
Ears look weird.
Sean Bean's performance is so good. I know he's only in it for like 10 minutes, but he's so good.
I love Sean Bean.
And then, on top of all that, like I think a lot of what it's trying to say and a lot of its metaphors, I think work really well. So, yeah, it's a great movie. I loved it. I mean, obviously it's very bleak and gross and grim and violent. So it's not a feel-good movie by any means, but I really enjoyed it.
Gee,
I don't know what that says about
Possessor.
me.
Walking out of a movie called Possessor and you weren't like uplifted. Interesting.
Yeah.
The one thing that bugged me was this movie felt like it was like a very long advertisement for vaping. I was just like, okay,
dude,
we get
everyone
it.
vapes in the future, man. Get
Apparently.
with the program.
I was like, is this the new cigarettes of movies? Is just like everyone like very obviously showing off their vape? Like, oh my god.
Well, you know what I'm thinking? It's like everyone who's like 30 or 40 in this movie is probably like, a Gen Z kid. And apparently Zoomers have the highest rate of like nicotine addiction after baby boomers or something because of how popular vaping is.
Jesus.
So
I'm trying to make a movie for the ages here.
Yeah, they're peering into their crystal ball, trying to predict like, okay, what's the future going to be like? All these Gen Z kids who like eat Tide Pods and are addicted to nicotine are going to grow up and they'll still be addicted to nicotine.
I give it up to Andrea Riseborough because like most of the movies I've seen in, like she's not glamorous looking at all. Like in Mandy, she doesn't look particular. Like she looks very normal, and then in this, she looks like a zombie for most of it. So like,
she looks absolutely haggard.
Yeah, and she's
a very committed actress.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
and a very underrated one.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I've seen her in like normal things. Like she was in Birdman. She was in that Waco miniseries. And she was in this movie called, it was from the Duffer Brothers. God, I can't remember. What was it called? That movie wasn't that good.
Is it because it was from the Duffer Brothers?
God, what was that movie called? I don't know. It sucked, though. It came highly recommended to me, and it was terrible. Oh, my God. It's going to drive me crazy.
I will say this. Like,
okay,
Austin...
You guys go. I'm going to try to figure this out.
So... The one thing that this movie reminded me a lot of, by the way, Gabe, I share a lot of your feelings. I thought it was really good.
Hidden. It's called Hidden. That's the Duffer Brothers movie.
Okay.
Oh.
But you can go ahead.
I liked the movie, probably not as much as you did, Gabe. I loved the way it was plotted and how the development of the story felt very natural. I like the attention that was paid. Like there was a lot of attention to detail. For example, her character, when she goes outside of her house and she's about to enter it and interact with her estranged husband, and she's like standing there trying to get into character, and how that's echoed when she's spying on Christopher Abbott and she's like trying to get into character there. It's like, okay, so this person she doesn't have an identity anymore. Like everything she does is an act. She lies to her boss about being, disassociated because she knows that's what her boss wants to hear. She lies to her estranged husband. The fact that they had those scenes in there and then they echo it later on in the movie, I thought that was really good. And I thought, because like it reminded me a lot of Inception, because like there was all of the like, okay, I need to get out of this body, I need to kill myself, and that'll wake me up for this. In Inception, a lot of the time, like the shooting yourself, it doesn't seem like there's any weight to it, but they set it up really well in this movie that every time she puts that gun in her mouth, it's like you can feel that this person that she's in is a living, breathing person, and doing this will actually have very real results. So I liked how that worked in the movie as well. I thought that was very well executed.
Yeah, everything about the movie is very, very, very well done, especially for such a young filmmaker.
Yeah.
I don't know his age, but
He's
I know he's
40.
only made one other movie. Okay, so he's not that young, but I mean, he's about Matt's age.
Wow, dude. Wow.
He's almost Matt's age.
Fucking starts early, huh? Jesus Christ.
Um,
Well, it makes me happy because I haven't made any movies
for the
yet, so there's
listeners,
still an
Matt is not
opportunity
metal.
for me to make a feature.
yeah,
I'm old enough
you
still.
just need a famous daddy.
Yeah, that's true.
His dad is David Cronenberg, and it took him this long to make movies.
I
was
know.
making
I mean,
shorts.
David Cronenberg is
odd.
like Mr. Canada.
Yeah.
He's, you know, the Canadian Film Board has no shortage of money to give to David Cronenberg to make more movies.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm wondering if it's just like it wasn't something that he was interested in until recently.
I was reading
Because,
up
yeah,
on
it
him, and
seems
I
like
think he purposefully avoided going into movies and tried to find other creative outlets because he didn't want to be compared to his dad, and then ended up dabbling in so many different things. He was like, you know what, I'm just going to make movies because movies combine all the things that I'm into.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
pretty true.
I mean his sensibilities are similar to his dad, but he's different enough, especially stylistically, to where I don't think they'll get compared too much.
Yeah. Well,
So
because
that-
David Cronenberg definitely became more stylish as his movies focused less on body horror and more on like psychological dramas and crime movies. And
Yeah,
things
like
that.
Eastern Promises looks really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. The opening of A History of
Eastern
Violence
Promises
is awesome.
a great History of Violence and Eastern Promises are great underrated movies.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they both got like Oscar attention, but I don't think anybody thinks about them anymore. But I think they
I
both.
think about them all the time.
I still think
Yeah,
about Eastern
I have
Promises.
History of Violence is like one of my like favorite movies of the type. That's a great movie.
Dude.
Also, I think I kind of told you guys this. Like The Fly, David Cronenberg's The Fly is like one of the 5 best horror movies ever, in my opinion. It is an amazing, amazing movie, and it has like the most like devastating, amazing ending ever.
I
So there's
still need
my-
to see it. I've been trying to
Yeah, I haven't
get
seen it either.
a hold of it, but
It's like one of those things. It's like you watch him. Like I was watching it because I saw it when I was younger, and I didn't retain much because it's like when you watch that when you're a kid, you're just like covering your eyes the whole time. But yeah, I watched it like last Halloween around that time, and it's like everything that I thought would be really awesome to put in the movie, he puts in it. It's like, oh, what if this happens? Oh my god, he actually did it. Oh my! There's one scene that's cut from the movie that is awesome. You can watch it on YouTube. He fuses like a monkey with a fly, and it's insane. But they had to cut it from the movie because I think it was just like too much. But it's crazy.
David
But yeah,
Cronenberg too much? No way.
that I might be overhyping it a bit. I don't think a lot.
I mean-
a bit. But Jeff Goldblum is freaking awesome in that movie, and I don't know. It's like Possessor. It's just like so like nothing good happens. Everybody at the end of the movie, it's just like, wow, sucks for you guys. It's just it's so good. The ramp up towards like the whole like ending scene is so I can't think of a movie with a better ending off the top of my head, in my opinion.
This
It's a little abrupt the way it ends, but I think it's perfect.
The Fly is usually cited as justification for why Hollywood can keep making remakes, because they're like, oh, but The Fly was so good, and it's like, yeah, The Fly was so good because
The
the
Fly
guy didn't
and
give a
The
shit
Thing
about the
came out
original. And
40
the same
years
with The
ago.
Thing, yeah. It's like those are the two movies that are cited as like, oh, well, we can remake movies and make them good. It's like, yeah, they were good because no one interfered with them. And
Well, they were good because
appreciated
they
in their own
good
time.
direct. Like John Carpenter is like, hey, and they're both remade from movies that aren't like acclaimed.
Yeah.
Like The Thing from Another World, I don't think is.
The original Fly movie is very highly regarded.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. I know The Thing from Another World is just like kind of like a trashy, like old Hollywood horror movie that
Yeah.
nobody cares about. But then The Thing is a masterpiece, the John Carpenter one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then the 2011 one is a nightmare, in the worst. Not in the way you want your horror movie to be.
I was gonna say, interesting choice of words.
I know, probably not the best way. But yeah, back to Possessor. Like, yeah, the only problem I really had with Possessor, it was hard for me to like stay engaged the whole movie because it's very slow in a lot of parts.
Mm-hmm.
Everything happens very slowly. And the performances outside of Sean Bean's are very, like, subdued.
Yeah.
And, like, the whole middle section of the movie is, like, a very slow burn. Not saying it's bad. It's just, it was hard to, like, keep my attention the whole time. And that might be a referendum on me.
Yeah, I actually...
But, yeah.
I found that Possessor kept my attention a lot more than VFW did. I know that sounds weird, but there was something very engrossing about Possessor that kept me continually engaged, and I did not, like, if something came up that I had to pause it for, I really didn't want to pause it because I wasn't sure where it was going or what was happening, and I was really enjoying, just like a lot of people have said, just the performances, the fact that Andrea Riseborough and Christopher Abbott have kind of a similar performance, and that when they have to talk in the same speed, they have the same cadence and everything like that. It's just like,
yeah, I would
really
agree
impressive.
that, I mean, Possessor, in terms of pacing, is on the slower side of things, but I think the movie does a really good job of always giving you something to, you know, hold your interest, to sink your teeth into, whether it's, you know, a performance or an interesting visual or an interesting science fiction concept, or, you know, it could be like just a tense moment of the plot.
I will say, I did like it more after I sat on it for a few hours.
Yeah.
Like, when I first was done watching it, I was like, okay, that was good. And then I kept thinking about it. I was like, okay, yeah, no, it was better than I think I thought it was when I first finished it.
I think it's a smart movie. It's like, I like movies that they stay with you, and I think this one was done in a very intelligent way. I took a lot of concepts that feel kind of familiar, but executed them uniquely and intelligently.
Yeah, and like the premise, I mean, it's a great premise, and it's really well executed. And like that whole scene where he's like working for the data mine company,
Oh gosh, yeah.
it just felt way too real. It's like, oh my god.
Well,
this makes
yeah,
me
it's
wanna throw
literally
up.
just like it's like,
I,
you know, when
turn
they
my
do
phone
the
upside down.
yeah, well, it's like when they do the, you know, click all the pictures with traffic lights in them. You're training Google's AI to pick out traffic lights. It's the same thing. It's like he's training the big data company's AI. Like, okay, this is how you find curtains or
Bunch of people
whatever.
are
And then there's like
fucking.
a bunch of other people. It's like, here's how you find bed frames or carpet or trees or whatever.
Yeah, no, it definitely hit way too like close to. It was way too real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with it being real. Just definitely like it's a movie. Like you don't want to like jump for joy after watching it.
No, I mean, it's
definitely one of those movies you sit there and you're like, ugh, I need a shower.
Yeah, well, I think the movie
And I need
does...
to cover all the cameras in my house.
Exactly. It does a really good job, I think, as a metaphor of just how fucked 21st century Western civilization is. Because it's basically about, you know, the world of Facebook and Twitter and Google and Amazon and just this, you know, tech-ruled hyper-capitalist society where everyone's reduced to a number or, you know, a $6 profile that you can sell to advertisers. Because the whole movie is about people losing their humanity in the society. I mean, the central arc of the main character is that she loses her humanity in order to complete her mission, right? Like, you know, this is getting into spoilers, I guess, but like the whole thing is when you are a possessor, there's the risk that you lose your sense of self by occupying another person's brain for too long or occupying too many people's brains. So that's why they have Jennifer Jason Leigh, the psychologist, does a test where she has to go through a set of possessions and remember if they're hers or not, and if they are hers, what do they mean or what do they represent. And there's that really clever little bit where she, like in the beginning, she pulls out the butterfly and she says, you know, This is a butterfly. I killed it and mounted it when I was 9 years old, and I felt guilty about it. I still feel guilty about it. And then at the end of the movie, she's just like, this is a butterfly. I killed it when I was 9. And the guilt is gone.
Yeah.
I did like seeing Jennifer Jason Leigh because she, I'm wondering if she did it because she's buddies with David Cronenberg, because I believe she's in, what is that one?
Existence.
Mm-hmm.
Which I will say, I know people, I did not love Existence. It feels like a TV movie. And
It looks like a TV movie.
It feels like a TV movie, and it's really cheesy, and the acting is weird. And
Jude Law has the worst Canadian accent ever.
What was that?
Jude Law's Canadian accent is fucking terrible, but it's intentional.
Well, I think the problem with that movie is the subject matter is so dated because it's about like video games, but it was made in like 1999 or like 2000. So it's like, I think like I haven't seen it in a while, but I think the whole premise is like it's some kind of like VR game, right? That they're making.
Yeah. So it's like they're testing it for control of other people, and Jennifer Jason Leigh and Jude Law are like these eco-terrorists who want to shut it down.
Yeah, and there's that one scene. It's like I think it's the last shot of the movie when Jude Law has this like very short speech. God, what does he say? I can't remember. God damn it, I can't remember. It's just like I don't know. I didn't love Existence. I love Cronenberg, but I did not love Existence.
Well, and I always like seeing Jennifer Jason Leigh pop up and stuff.
She's really good in sci-fi.
Yeah, well, she tends to play a type in a lot of movies, but she's really good at playing that type.
Yeah, she's an interesting actor because she's really good, but she doesn't really pop up in a lot. Like, the biggest role I've ever seen her in is Existence and then The Hateful Eight. Those are like the two meatiest roles I've ever seen for her. Other than that, I've seen her in like Annihilation, where she's like barely in that.
Well, Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yep.
I haven't seen that.
And I think
she's the main character.
I think Noah Baumbach did a big job in like kind of suppressing her for a bit, because like that whole time she was married to him, I think she appeared in his movies, but she kind of faded from the spotlight. And again, a lot of actresses, when they turn like 37 to like 45, 48, they don't really get any roles because Hollywood doesn't really know what to do with them. So she kind of faded for a while in the 2000s after like Existence and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, she's good in her small role in Possessor. I do want to say, like, can somebody please give Sean Bean a role that he can win an Oscar for before he dies?
I think he's too expensive for us, but we could write him one. I think he has a... Huh? We could write him one, but he's probably too expensive for us.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I don't think we're gonna. If we were to make movies, I don't think we're making Oscar bait. Yeah, I think he's just amazing, but he is like never the lead. He's always like a villain or like a small role. Like he has a small role, but he's always like one of the best performers.
Yeah,
and he's one of the best Bond villains.
Yeah,
I forget his character's name. I think he's 008, right?
He was 006.
In GoldenEye.
He was 006.
006.
Yeah. But you can add Possessor to the movies in which Sean Bean dies in. So it's a good list.
No, he doesn't die.
Oh yeah, that's right. He survives. Remember? He just has an eye out. Oh, never mind. I forgot. Yeah.
I mean, he's like, I want to say, he's like horribly crippled for life, but he lives.
Yeah. How could he have possibly survived that? Spoilers. How could he have possibly survived that? He got like a freaking... What are those things that
fireplace
they put in the
poker.
Fire?
Yeah.
Fireplace poker. He got that like in the throat, and he got stabbed like multiple times.
He got it like through the brainstem.
Well, that actually brings up another question I had, but go ahead, Austin. Yeah.
At that point, you'd probably just rather be dead.
Yeah. Well, he has to
I was gonna say the scene where Sean Bean gets not assassinated, but an assassination attempt with a fireplace poker is amazing.
Oh yeah, no, that scene's great. Yeah, that scene's great. The whole movie is like, it's so different. Like the way that scene is handled is very different than, say, how Jon Favreau would have directed that scene.
Oh Lord.
That doesn't make any sense in the context of this podcast, I'm realizing.
What do you think the significance of her going to like? Because obviously, like David Cronen. Every time I think of David Cronenberg, I always think of how he tries to hypersexualize everything or like introduce like some sort of sexual aspect. I don't think his son is as interested in it in like every single detail of his movie, but like
he's not as big of a perv. Is that what you're saying?
Well, sure. I was like, well, he's not interested in the innate nature of the sexuality of man and woman, but no. But like,
well, yeah, David Cronenberg, didn't he do a Sigmund Freud movie?
I was going to say, Cronenberg's very interested in human sexuality, considering A, he did a Sigmund Freud movie. B, like half his movies are about perversion. Videodrome's about perversion. Crash is about perversion.
Oh, Crash.
Shivers is about perversion. So he's very much into that as a subject.
Yeah. But like, what do you like? Why do you think in this, instead of like shooting, like first off, almost all of the kills or all of the attacks are not necessarily through like slashing. And I know this is getting into the nitty gritty details, but like the majority of attacks were piercing attacks. You know, gunshots pierce through you. All of the knives, it wasn't like she was slitting someone's throat. She just kept stabbing people. Like, do you think that played any significance in the movie? Did it like, I don't know. I noticed that as I was watching it, and I wanted to know if, I guess specifically Gabe, if you gave it any thought as to why instead of on these violent things, it wasn't necessarily like bludgeoning people or slashing people.
I think there's two things. One, I think a lot of the ultra-violent deaths involving blunt instruments, like you know, in the beginning, the assassin stabs a guy to death through the throat and face and the chest. And, you know, Andrea Riseborough gets asked, like, why did you had a gun? Why did you stab him so, like, brutally? You know, you could have just shot him once and it would have been over with. So I think that, like, the excessiveness of the violence, I think, is meant to sort of reflect the main character's loss of empathy and her humanity. You know, she's becoming more and more alienated from herself and people she cares about, and from her sort of connection in relation to other human beings, and that manifests itself in these really over-the-top and tactically unnecessary displays of violence. But I think the other thing is that I've noticed this in a lot of movies that have to do with brains or like mind invasions, thought invasions, dreams, things like that. Like a lot of David Lynch movies have this, is a lot of people die from violent head injuries. So in David Lynch, for example, the most common way characters die is head injuries, because a lot of his movies have to deal with the interior of the mind. And I think a movie like Possessor, which has very much to do with the interior of people's minds, it's, I think, of symbolic importance that everyone dies either from stab wounds to the head, bludgeoning to the head, gunshot wounds to the head. And I think it's also, in a movie about people's humanity and identity being erased, you know, the host's identity is erased by the possessor, people's identities are erased by these big tech companies. You know, your face is how people identify you. So if you violently destroy it, that's erasing your identity. So that's kind of another symbolic element at play. I'm just glad I bored you with that, Matt.
That was not me. I actually, yeah.
Oh, I'm glad
I'm
I bored
the one
you
who
with that,
likes
Austin.
listening to these theories and exploring these concepts. I wouldn't ask you that if I didn't think about it. I don't know. I thought it was interesting that it was a lot of the deaths, especially because like Sean Bean lived and he was being bludgeoned, whereas everyone else who was attacked with a knife pretty much died. And so I thought it was, that's an interesting.
Well, I mean,
It's interesting on that, Mark.
Symbols are always about taking an idea and making it literal, right? So if the ideas in your movie are dehumanization and loss of identity, the best way to make it literal is for someone's head to explode, you know?
Yeah.
Because what makes them is now gone.
God, when in the vision when he's like cracking her skull and pops it, that's an amazing cut. I didn't even see where the cut was when he like crushes her skull, and then when he puts on the face and like starts going through her life, I'm like, dude, that's something that'll scar people for like forever. It's brilliant. Just like, I don't know, a lot of this movie, I think it'll stick with me. a lot. It's very similar to like Parasite. I feel like a lot of this movie will stick with me long after I've finished it. So, yeah, I really liked it. Gabe, did you have anything else you wanted to say on it?
I don't know. I mean, I loved it. I loved every bit of it. Go ahead.
The one thing I didn't love was the music. It was appropriate. I just was not a huge fan of the music. That's the only thing. And it's really just a taste thing for me.
It's not particularly memorable, but it works.
Yeah. Kind of wish he pulled Howard Shore to do it, but that's, it's enough that he got Jennifer Jason Leigh. I guess it's fine. It's fine. That's enough.
Has Sean Bean been in any of David Cronenberg's movies?
I can't think of any.
I'm sure he's popped up in one. Cronenberg's directed like 100 movies.
You would think. Well, it's just like when I looked at David Lynch's filmography, I was like, oh my god, he's been prevalent, but he doesn't have nearly as many movies as I thought he had. It's kind of a similar reaction when I looked at David Cronenberg's filmography. I was like, oh my god, I thought he was a lot more prevalent than this.
I think it's because like all of his movies are notable in some way, so it makes it seem like he's made more movies. Whereas like somebody like Spielberg, well, he's made 1 million movies,
yeah, he's
but
made a lot.
Like 30% of them are duds. So that's probably.
I was about to contest you on that, but no, that's
great.
No, that's pretty accurate. I would say that's a pretty safe number, 30%. Yeah.
I mean, it could be. I'm sure to Gabe, it's like 60%.
Too much schmaltz.
I don't see anything on Sean Bean's filmography that is a David Cronenberg movie.
I don't either.
Sean Bean, who's been in fucking a million
Percy
things.
Jackson and the Olympians. Did Cronenberg direct that?
Oh my god. If he did, with all of the like Greek, like, can you imagine a faun directed by David Cronenberg? Like, what the fuck are we looking at? Jesus Christ. A Cronenbergian centaur. Did you know, speaking of, just a quick reference to Star Wars, David Cronenberg was on the short list to direct Return of the Jedi, and I'm always sad that he said no.
Both David Cronenberg and David Lynch were on that short list.
And Steven Spielberg, but there was a Writers Guild issue, or there was a Directors Guild issue, so Spielberg couldn't do it, but he was going to do it.
David Lynch met with George Lucas to discuss Return of the Jedi and had like a panic attack or a migraine or something in the middle of their meeting.
Gee, I wonder what that would sound like, Gabe. You want to do what with Jabba the Hutt?
I know.
You want to put Leia in a slave outfit? And she's going to be like on a chain that's held by a giant slug man?
George, it sounds like a great idea.
Boba Fett's going to fall in a Sarlacc pit, and then 40 years later, they're going to throw him in a TV show? What?
Why is there a giant penis monster in Star Wars?
And the Sarlacc's going to burp when he eats Boba Fett?
Well, I remember, I think I heard Lynch tell the story in some interview, but yeah, he was saying like it was supposed to be super secret. Like, he wasn't supposed to know where any of this was, so he was just put on a plane and flown out to like Modesto or some location nearby. And he goes to George Lucas's house, and Lucas is showing him all these like figurines and toys and stuff. And David Lynch is like, I already don't like this. Like, I feel weird. I'm not enjoying this. And then I guess, they go to some diner, and Lucas is telling him all these ideas for like Ewoks and stuff. And Lynch is just, I guess he had like this piercing headache just listening to Lucas talk. So he's like, excuse me, I need to use the restroom. And he, I guess, like snuck out the back of the restaurant, went to a payphone and called his agent and was like, get me out of here, please. I can't do this.
Then he made Dune.
I know. That's the greatest
Shows
irony
how much
of all.
David Lynch knows.
Oh, the biggest irony of it all. He's like, I'm still going to get my penis monsters. Fair enough. Can you imagine
I wonder if George Lucas got like satisfaction from that. He's like, oh yeah, you screw me over, yeah, and you make your crap movie? Okay, I see how it is.
Oh, okay. You want to make a crappy Star Wars spin-off movie? Okay.
I feel like George Lucas's voice is a full octave higher than Austin's impression.
Okay, I'm not the impressionist on the freaking podcast.
No, that would be Gabe. That would be Gabe. Should we move on to VFW? Austin, tell us what VFW is about.
Ooh, okay. You're the one who just watched it.
I know, but since I'm the host, I don't have to describe it. You don't want me to describe it. It would take me 5 hours, and I'd go in all sorts of circles.
Okay, so my memory is not as good as Gabe or Matt's when it comes to movies, which I think is probably a bad sign of my brain power. But regardless, so VFW is about Stephen Lang. He owns a like VFW bar in this like crappy like ghetto town. I think it's essentially abandoned outside of like this bar, and then there's this like abandoned apartment complex or something where a bunch of homeless junkies live. And basically, so Stephen Lang and all his like veteran buddies, which I can't remember all the actor names. We have the dude from Commando, who gets dropped off a ledge by Arnold Schwarzenegger. We have Cobra Kai. God, who else is in it? How am I forgetting? Oh, and then what's his name? Oh God, the freaking villain in Die Hard 2. How am I forgetting his name? Wow, you guys aren't gonna help me, huh?
I've been told to stay away from Die
Sadler,
Hard 2.
William Sadler.
Yeah.
And then there's some other like old school actors in the movie. And they're just like chilling one day, and then the like group of like homeless junkies, they what is the name of the drug, Matt? Could you
Hype.
just watch the movie? Hype. They have this new drug called Hype, and all the people are like, they'll like kill for it. And one of the girls who's like in that crew, they're like the main dealer is the dude. He's I don't know, he's some young dude.
We'll call him Patchy
I thought
Beard.
he was the villain in Far Cry 5, but I don't think it's that guy. He basically has this like drug ring, and he's a dick. And some like younger girl steals from him and goes to the VFW bar. And essentially what happens is it's like all these like junkies are trying to get that drugs back, and all these old like 80s action actors have to fight them off in very gory fashion. And that is the best I can remember.
Yeah, it's like, you know, our heroes just through bad luck find themselves in a situation where they have to defend a place from wave after wave of bad guys of some type. Like, what was that one John Carpenter movie? Like Attack on Precinct 13 or whatever?
Assault on Precinct 13.
Precinct 13.
Yeah.
Or the end of Skyfall.
The end of Skyfall, or like
Green Room.
Green Room to an extent is kind of like that.
Yeah, like
It's a tower defense
our
movie.
Protagonists are trapped in like a small structure and have to try to figure out how to get out or just kill everybody.
But it's like a classic, tried and true kind of B-movie premise.
Yeah, it is like the B-est of B movies, and it features a bunch of B movie actors. Well, I don't know if I would say all of those guys, maybe not Stephen Lang, but I mean Stephen Lang was in Don't Breathe, and that was a B movie.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Stephen Lang is
yeah,
he's
they're
very
all, like-
underrated, but he's not like A-list. He's not an A-list actor. by
He's
any
been
means.
in A-list movies, like he was in Avatar, obviously.
And
He's been in
Tombstone.
big movies, but I'd say he fits in. He fits in with like the whole B. Like it'd be one thing if it was like Arnold Schwarzenegger was the lead. But I like that they kind of went with like it'd be. I mean, it would be kind of awesome if it was like the cast of The Expendables, but like directed by somebody with like crazy ideas that were stuck in the bar. That would be fun to watch too. But I like that they kind of went with all these they're actors that you recognize because they popped up in a lot of those like old action movies, but none of them were like stars. None of them were like the leading men in any of those movies.
They've all probably been retired for 10 years before they brought him out of retirement for this movie.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I think I've seen William Sadler pop up in some things, but other than him, William Sadler and Stephen Lang are like the only ones that I've really seen pop up.
Yeah, I mean,
and
Stephen
other
Lang played Freddie Lounds in Michael Mann's adaptation of Red Dragon.
The only notable performance he's ever been in. I'm kidding.
I
love
wonder.
Stephen Lang.
I wonder if he'll be Freddie Lounds again in the Clarice TV show for CBS.
CBS All Access.
That is holding back. That is holding back Brian Fuller from getting the rights to adapt Silence of the Lambs in a proper way. No, we're gonna get this crappy CBS show, and we'll never be able to see freaking Mads Mikkelsen in that story, which sucks, but whatever.
Yeah.
I'll get over it eventually.
So, Gabe.
It just sucks because every time you watch football, you have to see 15 commercials for Clarice.
Gabe, what did you think of VFW?
It's all right. It's like a low witness. It's, it's good fun. Nothing too crazy.
Yeah. I kind of take a similar approach to it. I thought it was a high fine.
Actually,
that's interesting.
A high
I
it's fine
wonder-
might be. Yeah, I might go with that actually.
Yeah.
That's kind of just. I feel like it was if it was a movie that we all watched together, you would have both had a higher opinion of it.
Maybe. Let me.
So
But-
Go ahead. Go ahead.
go ahead.
Gabe. No, you first.
Okay. It's definitely got a lot of B movie appeal. Like it's very fast paced. It's got plenty of violence. It's over the top. It's got a neat look to it, although it's really grainy and hard to see sometimes.
Yes.
Whatever, it was shot on red according to the credits, but they turned the ISO up way too high and their lighting was not bright enough, so it's hard to see at certain points.
To me, the cinematography overall was really bad.
Yeah, and it doesn't have the... I remember you, Austin, you described it to me as, I think it was you said Mandy meets Hobo with a Shotgun. But, Mandy's great. Hobo with a Shotgun is good too, but I think I like Hobo with a Shotgun more just because it's more inventive, it's more zany, it has stranger ideas beyond just defend this bar from wave after wave of nondescript enemies. But it's a reasonably entertaining B movie. There's nothing really about it that I love, if that,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is all just kind of comes down to taste then, because obviously I'm very high on it, but this movie is very much in my kind of style of movie that I enjoy.
Right.
The soundtrack is very heavy metal inspired. Not heavy metal the animated thing, the music.
The genre of music.
Oh, really? I thought it was really
Yes.
electronic. I was like, oh yeah, of course Austin liked this. This is the score to reminded me of the score to Possession a little bit. I was like, this is a very electronic score.
Maybe I'm getting confused with Bliss then, because that soundtrack's very heavy metal.
Well, no. There's plenty of electronic elements to the score for VFW, but as electronic as it is, I would say it's a metal. If it's not a metal score, it's a metal inspired score.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of because even the score to Mandy kind of has a more metal feel, but it is electronic. So it's more of that I don't know. I guess if electronic kind of music was adapted into a more heavy metal kind of setting, which exists. But yeah, I like it a lot. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say that it's the brilliant movie of our time.
Well,
but
Austin, let me tell you the reasons because it should have been a movie that I loved. So let me give you my reasons why I wasn't over the wall with this. What I think held it back. Because I think the concept is really cool. It's very simple, and the execution as far as a script was effective enough. You had all of the points that you needed to get from point A to point B. The chemistry between the main cast is really good. I think the way that they interact is very good. But to me, the lighting got on my nerves a little bit. And for as creative as they wanted all of the action scenes to be, all of the action was really bad. I might be alone on this, but the way that the action scenes were edited was very choppy. it was over the top, but not in a way that was like viscerally satisfying. Like when the first guy's head blows up, it just looks like a balloon popped, with like a chunky balloon popped. They would have these shots of like the axe going into someone, and they would just cut away to like the bloody hit afterwards, or they would show the person swinging, and then they would have a camera move of the camera moving and the axe already embedded in their skull. So I never got a connected sense of the action.
Sorry that not everybody has the freaking Mandalorian budget, Matt.
What? Hey, whoa!
It's
Look,
a
these
B
are not.
movie. You're gonna have to give up some like quality in your special effects if you don't have any money.
Or your
This
visual
movie probably
effects.
cost like $100,000 to make.
I'm just saying,
What'd you say?
like, or your visual effects. I mean, look, I get it. I get that they had to take some cuts somewhere, but like it might just come down to the way that it was edited. I just like the way that they edited the action scenes wasn't particularly good, and a lot of it was very choppy, and it wasn't hard to follow, but it also didn't flow particularly amazingly. So like, if with such an interesting concept, and they do so much on the production side, the one thing that they had to nail was decent action scenes. But all of these guys are so old that they're kind of like, it kind of reminded me of Da 5 Bloods, where it's like the action, but I would take the action scenes in Da 5 Bloods over this, unfortunately, because even though they had some cool kills, the concept of how they killed them was a great idea. The execution of how they killed them was not so much for me. And so that's kind of where this movie sat, is like, it's a cool concept. All of the pieces are there that should be there, but they kind of fumbled the ball on the execution a little bit. So it was kind of like a little bit more of a slog for me to get through. That's why it's just fine for me.
All right, well, to each his own. I mean, I wish I watched it more recently to form a better defense, but I can't rebut you. I can't rebut you too much when I can't really like remember every beat from it. I
wanted to like this
enjoyed
a lot.
it a lot.
I really wanted to like it.
I think you are being overly critical for sure. But that's what you got. You guys have this. I don't know. You guys can be like. I feel like you two don't give like benefit of the doubt to like lower budget movies. I will do that, but to each its own. To each his own, I guess.
Well, at the end of the day, it's like it being a low-budget B movie definitely frames my expectations for it, but that also, I think, like puts a
limit on it.
Because I mean, it does put a limit on like how good it can be in a lot of ways. It's like, you know, like I said, it's good fun, but I didn't love it in any particular way. It's like I thought I'm not as harsh as Matt on the action. I thought the action was probably the more enjoyable part of the movie. Because, like, you know, it is what you want out of a B movie. It's just, like, crazy, hyper-violent, kind of, and making the best, I thought, of what they had available, you know? Especially, like, how they use all the stuff in the bar as, you know, weapons and traps and things like that. Like, that was all really cool.
The tennis balls with the matches that never come back into play. I was like, is that gonna...
I know. That was such a cool idea that they used once.
Yeah.
I don't even, God, yeah, I don't remember tennis balls.
Well,
like I said, I don't, like, I saw this when it first came out in, like, February or March, whenever.
Well,
so it's definitely, like, left my mind a little bit. Which, I mean, that could go against the movie. I don't know. I think it depends, what I wanted to see when I watched it is what I got. And maybe, because I was somewhat familiar with the director, because I had seen Bliss before I saw this, I had a better idea of what I was getting into. I know Gabe saw Bliss too, so he's in that same boat. But I know you hadn't, Matt.
Yeah.
So I had kind of like an idea of what I was getting into. It was going to be very like gross and dirty and
I have
violent.
no problem with that. I just want it to be executed better than it was executed here. I know it sounds. I
have a question for you, Gabe. Do you think this or Bliss is better from like a technical standpoint?
I think as irritating as large sections of it are, I think Bliss is better technically and creatively. I mean, I think I talked about this with Matt on an earlier episode of the show, but you know, as much as there's a lot I don't like about Bliss, but I really like there's no shortage of cool ideas in terms of like horror sequences in terms of like, you know, vampire violence. Like all the melting stuff is really cool.
Yeah.
Which,
no, that's the
like, I was kind of hoping they had a little more of in this. And also, like, as grainy and grimy and dirty and sometimes hard to see as Bliss can be, you know, I think it's definitely filmed and edited better than VFW.
Interesting. That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, the problem with Bliss is like I like Bliss for like the same reasons you pointed out. Yeah, but like the lead character is just like so irritating.
Oh God,
to watch.
yeah.
She's like the least likable. Like
that wasn't the problem with VFW.
Like, your lead
I love
character,
Stephen Lang in this.
Your lead character can be unlikable, but they can't be that unlikable.
I know, it's.
She's like the actress is fine. She so the lead in Bliss is the like bad girl in VFW.
Oh, okay.
Like, she's a fine actor. It's just like, oh my god,
Her character's
like, she's better suited
in Bliss.
Yeah, like it's fine for her to be the bad guy in VFW because you want to see her die. The problem with Bliss is that she's the lead, and like, yeah, it's great that she dies, but she's also
Linda
the lead,
Cardinelli.
So who?
Kmart Linda Cardellini. That's who she reminded me of. Like a Kmart version of Linda Cardellini, because she had the same kind of face structure.
That's a weird
reference.
Comparison, but
it's like, I feel like I've seen
whatever works for you. Yeah, no, I get what you guys are saying. Joe Begos, I like his style. I like his style, like not just from like a cinematography standpoint. I like the like very obvious like punk, like hardcore punk and kind of like heavy metal influences that he's putting in his movies. That always like gets, if your movie has like any kind of like heavy metal in it, there's a good chance I'm gonna like it.
Yeah.
So I think I probably overlook some of the deficiencies a little bit more because I like the style. Even if from a technical standpoint it's not perfect, I do like the style. Like obviously like his use of colors is cool. And while like the gore isn't perfect, I still like, I don't care. With me, I'm not super concerned with like how great the gore effects are because they're fun either way, as long as they're not like distractingly bad. And to me, they weren't distractingly bad for me. I didn't like have a problem with it.
Yeah.
I can see why like it's not like gonna win an Oscar.
No.
It's not like a piece of art, but I think it's like as good as a B movie can be. That might be overselling it, but I don't know. I clearly liked it more than you guys.
Yeah.
I bought it on Blu-ray, but I haven't watched it yet.
Like I said, I think the potential of it was really high because they come up with all of these really cool items, and like the last scene where the guy gets the rotary chains, the rotary saw, and he's like gonna go to town on people. Like, I've seen Brain Dead or Dead Alive in America, and like I've seen that scene where he's, you know, going about on a bunch of zombies with a giant freaking mechanical lawnmower, and I'm pretty sure Peter Jackson had less money than VFW did on it, and so that's what I mean by like, it's kind of disappointing because like I've seen some of these concepts in other movies and I've seen them done less choppy and better, which less choppy, not like choppy like slashing them, but editing wise. So that's another reason. It's like, well, it seems like this idea is so cool. Like and the build up to it is awesome. He like
okay. Like, you're comparing Peter Jackson. You're comparing Peter Jackson to Joe Begos.
But to be fair, I've never seen anything by Joe Begos, and you talk highly about him. So I'm going under the impression that I should have him in some sort of pedestal. So that's not pedestal maybe, but like, you know, something accomplished.
Have I talked that highly about it?
You recommended both Bliss and VFW to us, and you sound like a fan. So I mean,
he has other movies that I haven't sought out because they don't look that interesting. I wouldn't say I'm like a super fan. I like his style.
And again,
like I think me and Gabe probably feel the same about Bliss. I might like it a little bit more than him.
Yeah.
But I would still only say it's like a Witness. I wouldn't give it like anything higher.
I think there's just some stuff that I find irritating about like VFW that I feel like there isn't a good excuse for, like just how visually noisy a lot of the
that
shots
bugged
are
the
in the
shit
bar,
out of me.
where it's like that, like that's kind of that, like if you're making a movie that's getting legit distribution, you gotta tighten that up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guys, the critics are on my side because VFW has 81% on Rotten Tomatoes. So
That's fine, dude. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, even if it's wrong. I think that was said many, 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 many years ago by Gabe.
okay, you lost credibility when you said that freaking The Last Jedi was good. So let's.
If we're looking
slow down.
at critical responses, and I mean, I think I'm in good company if we're looking at critical responses.
I know. I was obviously joking, Matthew. Jesus Christ. I know it's been a while since I was on the pod, but but yeah, I mean, it's.
I really
Like I said,
really
it's not
wanted to
gonna-
like this because there's so much that with a little tweaking could work so well. I really did want to like this a lot. I think that's what's even more disappointing is like Austin said that this would be my kind of movie, and in concept it totally is, and that's what makes me even more critical about the execution of it. So if you
Yeah,
want to know
that's
why
true. I
I'm,
think with,
I'm
like,
being so hard on it, it's probably because of that. Go
This
ahead,
would
Gabe.
be really good with a little better execution.
Yeah, I think I've kind of talked about this before. I think it's a little, depending on the context, it's a little bit easier for me to turn my brain off than it is you guys. I don't know if that's a good thing. But yeah, depending on what, like, because I don't know. Also, I didn't get a lot of like hype for this movie. I just kind of like heard about it and I was like, oh, this sounds fun.
I mean,
Whereas like when you guys watched it, I hyped it up for you.
Yeah.
So
well, and again, Austin, it's not.
I
like,
went in with like no expectations. You guys probably went in with high expectations, and I think expectations can definitely affect
yes.
how much you like certain movies.
That's true.
And you haven't really steered me wrong, Austin. And so if you recommend another movie, I will still go and see it. But it's like as far as that stuff goes, like I'm a huge fan of the movie Spartan with Val Kilmer. Like I really like that movie. But if I recommend it to you and you guys see it, you'll be like, this is a very pedestrianly made movie. And I'd be like, yeah, I'm not going to complain with you on that. So, I mean, I'm not going to be like, oh, I can't believe you like this movie. I'm just, I think it's good that it scratches your itch for this kind of content.
Yeah.
I'm glad that it does. Because Stephen Lang's great in it. The actors do a really good job in it. It's like, again, there's so much on it that's like, just tweak a little bit here and boom, it's instant classic. So
I think if you guys were both over here and we had a few Best Damn Root Beers, which do they not make that anymore? I haven't seen it.
I don't know. It's a good
I don't think they
question.
make the Best Damn Root Beer anymore because I think Bud Light made those.
I was going to say, is it no longer the best
We had a
damn
couple
root beer?
Best Damn Root Beers.
The second best damn root beer?
I feel like we would have. I feel like you guys would have enjoyed it more, but obviously that doesn't mean it's a better movie. I'm just saying you guys would have enjoyed it more.
I think so.
Yeah, probably. Definitely a grindhouse audience. If you're in a huge theater and you're watching it and like the guy's head blows up the first time and it's like, fuck yeah, yeah.
I do like Joe Bagos, and I'm interested to see kind of where his career goes. Because I do think, like you guys are saying, I'm not saying I could do any better, but it's like definitely like amateurish in some ways. But I mean, he's only made a few movies, and they've all been low budget, so that's to be expected. So I'm interested to see like if he can like iron out some of those issues, like some of the issues we were talking about with Bliss, and then some of the technical, like, because I think Bliss, it's mostly issues with the script more so than the execution. It seems like the issues you guys have with VFW is more with the execution more so than the script.
Yep.
Even though the script is not really important with a movie like VFW, but
it hits all
yeah,
the right
if he can
beats.
iron out some of those issues, I think he's got some.
Yeah.
I think he can make some good movies. Just don't like that girl. What's her name? Let's see. I'm sure it'll pop up right here.
Dora Burge?
Dora Burge, is that her name?
I don't know. I think so.
I think it's Dora Madison. Let me see. Yeah, Dora Madison.
Burge. It's Dora Madison Burge.
We looked at the same Wikipedia article where she's also professionally credited as Madison Burge and Dora Madison. Support Wikipedia.
Just
Not
yeah,
sponsored.
just don't cast her. She's not a bad actor. Just don't cast her in the lead because she just has like villain. I don't
charisma.
know. Maybe that's just like the way that he's directing her. Maybe she'd be fine in like a role where she can be not a horrible person.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder if Bliss, if it's more so the performance or just the way the character's written.
I think it's more the way the character's written. She plays the character seemingly how she's written, and it's really abrasive.
Yeah. Oh, but yeah, the whole ending of that movie is pretty great.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I love how, because like honestly, I think when I was first watching that movie, I almost turned it off because like I can't, like this movie's making me sick. Because it's just like there's some like long takes. I don't think there's a lot. It's been a
you're
while
talking
since
about
I've seen
Bliss?
that too. Yeah,
Okay.
there's some like long takes in that movie where like just like people are just like doing drugs and like loud heavy metal music is playing and the camera's like flailing around. I'm like, oh my god, I can't. Like this is too much. It's like sensory overload. But yeah, I think Mr. Joe Begos has a Begos. I don't know. I think he's got an interesting career ahead of him, and I kind of want to see. I want to see some of his. He made a movie called Almost Human, which the title of it makes me not want to see it because it sounds kind of lame. But
Starring Balder of like a sci-fi version of Balder. Oh wait, that's too human. Never mind.
yeah.
Deep video game cut.
Isn't there a TV show with Carl Urban, Something Human?
Yeah,
I think it was canceled after like 4 episodes or something.
I know, but
Or maybe one season.
No, it was like 4 episodes. It could have been so good.
Speaking of Carl Urban, wait, that wasn't the one with the wheelchair cop, right?
No,
That's a different show. Okay. That's an interesting one.
the one that was based off of that one movie with Angelina Jolie and The Bone Collector. That show, the one that was based off of The Bone Collector.
I have no freaking clue. But speaking of Carl Urban, did you ever watch The Boys season 2?
I have not yet.
Okay, well, when you do that, we should do a pod on that because I have very many thoughts on The Boys.
Okay. Everyone tells me it's great.
Not all of them bad.
Right. Yeah. I kind of know some of
just-
them, but everyone tells me that it's great. But like, I'm also just like predisposed to be a little apprehensive about like someone's like, oh man, this show's awesome, and it's like, it goes back to like when we were talking about like The Mandalorian. It's like, let's temper those expectations a little bit, people. Like,
Well, yeah, why does every show have to be like transcendent or like terrible? Why can't it like be like, it's pretty good? And I love the first season of The Boys.
Yeah.
I think the first season of The Boys deserves a lot of praise. The second season I have a lot of issues with, but I still enjoyed it a lot. Kind of like The Mandalorian. Like a lot of it's really fun, and Carl Urban should be a huge star.
He
and
should.
It makes me sad that he's not.
he should be Solid Snake. Like, he would be great as Solid Snake. But
Who's playing? I
Oscar
know what to
Isaacs.
message you guys about this, and I can't.
Oscar Isaacs is playing it. Who like
I like Oscar
He will
Isaac.
be
But
good.
I don't.
he will be good. He'll be good in the role. Because he's just
Why didn't they just cast Kiefer Sutherland? He already does the voice.
they could cast. They just get. They get Oscar Isaac, and then they bring in David Hayter to just re-record all of his lines.
They
and
dub
just
his
saying them.
voice.
Yeah.
Gabe, who would be your ideal Solid Snake? And don't say Tom Hardy.
Oh god, I don't like the idea of a Metal Gear Solid movie.
The idea of I have never played a Metal Gear Solid game outside of the Phantom Pain.
Man.
I think that game is awesome. It's the best gunplay, like the best stealth and gunplay of any game I've ever played.
Yeah.
There's no story in that game whatsoever.
Yeah. That's what's.
I'm
a shame
curious,
about it.
is there story in the other games?
Oh,
or is it
dude.
just kind of like
Metal Gear, the original Metal Gear Solid, is the game that made it so that every single game going forward had cutscenes with audio dialogue. That's the benchmark for the more cinematic video game experience. If you've never played the original Metal Gear Solid, you could either watch all the cutscenes online or watch a run of the Twin Snakes. Metal Gear Solid 2.
Do you really think I'm gonna do that?
Metal Gear Solid.
Or are you talking to the audience?
No, I'm talking to you. Like, if you, because the story to the original Metal Gear Solid, even though it's just a rehash of the original story to Metal Gear, is really good. So go on Wikipedia and read the summary. Like, it's really interesting. It gets
well, you
kinda
have to
convoluted,
imagine. This is actually an interesting thought I just had. Konami, 'cause it's Konami that owns Metal Gear, right?
Correct.
I wouldn't be surprised if they just tried to completely remaster those games because they don't have Kojima anymore, but they could still make money off of him. So why not just completely remaster all of his old games?
They had, because they had brought all of them to, I think, either PC or PlayStation 3. I mean, like, Metal Gear Solid 3 has a very interesting storyline. And in addition, they have all of these weird little Easter egg things that you can do, like your food. If you kill a rat and put it in your inventory, you can cook it or you can just eat it. But if you take too long to eat it, it goes bad. And if it goes bad, then you lose health. But you can throw up and then you don't lose health, but you don't get the benefit of eating the rat. So, like, there's all of this, like, weird Kojima-y things in 3, which also has a really good story. So 5 is the outlier as far as stories are concerned in Metal Gear.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, because 5, I was like on the fence about getting it, but like it was getting like 10 out of 10s. Everybody's like, oh, it's the best game. So I was like, okay, I'll try it out. And yeah, like I said, the gameplay, oh my god, the gameplay in that game is so much fun.
MGS5?
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. The game is so good.
Like I was telling Nat, it's the best. I think it has the best gunplay and stealth of any game I've ever played.
Yeah. I love
Definitely
Death Stranding.
gunplay. I'd have to... Huh?
I love Death Stranding. Like, I think about Death Stranding way more than I should. I love Death Stranding.
I was thinking about getting it, but then I watched like a bunch of like reviews on it, and people were like, "Yeah, it's good," but I was like watching, I was like, "This game looks so boring."
I really like it, and I think about, because from a mechanical point of view, the game is just fantastic. But I defer to Gabe, because Gabe probably has a better opinion. If I remember, Gabe, you really liked it too.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I mean, yes, it looks really boring until you play it, and then it's not boring at all. It's actually really good.
Yeah, it's oddly engaging.
You know, I think I actually, you know what? I'm going to look like a hypocrite right now, because I think I even said that to you guys when I was talking about Days Gone, because Gabe was like, oh yeah, I was watching my brother play it, and it looks so boring. And I was like, every game looks boring when you watch somebody else play it.
Not true. That's why I like
a lot of
speedrunning.
games look like open world games. Open world games are a nightmare to watch other people play. It's so boring. Yeah. It's like, oh, they're gonna go in this house. Like watching somebody play Skyrim. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Just 45 minutes of them going through a cave, like looting everything.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just didn't see anything that like stuck out to me about Death Stranding. Especially with like other games on my list that I'd like Ghost of Tsushima or
and Death Stranding.
I still need to beat Cyberpunk.
Death Stranding's hard because it takes about 2 to 3 hours for all of the concepts to meld together, because you need to get through the opening and the world building before you get to the really cool stuff. But once you get to the really cool items and movement tech in the game, then it just is like, oh fuck yeah, this game has just way opened up. It drags a little near the end, but if you can get past the initial jump in the game, then it's really good.
Interesting. Well, I'm sure at some point it will be like free on PS Plus, and maybe I'm sure it already has been at one point. Maybe I'll give it a try, give it a couple hours, and I don't know. It's hard because there's so many like good games, because games take so long to beat. There's like so many good games that you're just never gonna have time to play.
Yep.
It's like I really want to play Ghost of Tsushima, but I don't know when the hell I'm gonna have time to play it.
Well, I think you mentioned at one point, Austin, that we were talking about video games, and you said I was way harsher on games than you are. But I think it's like, to your point, like I kind of have to be because it's such a huge time suck to try and beat a game. So it's like you have to be pretty discriminating about what you're gonna actually pick up and play.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was more saying, like I don't know. I have fun with games Like, and I'm not like super critical when I'm playing a game. Like, if I see a game that has good reviews and I play it, like,
Except for
I
Death
almost
Stranding.
always like it. Well, I haven't tried Death Stranding, and Death Stranding has like okay reviews.
Yeah, it's got middling reviews.
Oh
Yeah,
okay.
and I'm not saying like
Fine.
obviously reviews aren't the be all end all. Like Days Gone had bad reviews, and I like that a lot. Which I find interesting that Cyberpunk has good reviews because
It's because they all played it on
it's
PC.
like the biggest.
They all played it on
It's like the
PC,
biggest
yeah.
video game disaster of like the 21st century.
Is
Which,
it
dude,
really
I can
though?
do
Is it
now.
really a bigger disaster than like Skyrim or
Well, no.
Fallout?
So I'm not.
76?
Skyrim wasn't a disaster.
Yeah, what are you talking about, Scott? You mean Elder Scrolls Online?
Well, no, Skyrim was full of like game crashing bugs and stuff. So it's like, you know, the whole complaint about Cyberpunk is it's really buggy on PS4 and Xbox One, and it's like, well, so were a lot of things. A lot of
But-
games that got tons of acclaim and won Game of the Year were basically broken
Yeah.
at launch, and people still love them. I
But
mean, I've heard a
Cy-
lot of people who love Cyberpunk, even though it's a hot mess in terms of bugs and glitches.
I mean, I played it for a couple hours and I thought it was fun. I thought the world was cool. I thought the gameplay was fun. It crashed on me a couple times and I'm like, okay, I know they're going to have fixes for this
Yeah.
within the next few weeks, so I'm just going to stop playing for a while. I started playing The Evil Within 2. That game's a lot of fun.
As far as Cyberpunk, the reason why a lot of people are freaking out is because the frame rate on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One get to the low teens, so it basically makes the game nigh unplayable. That's the main issue. Like having
Yeah.
a bug pop up that like crashes the game. Yeah, that happened in Skyrim. Skyrim has a lot of soft locks, but very rarely on the console that it came out on did the frame rate consistently dip to the point where you could not play it. That's the major difference.
Yeah, from what I've heard about Cyberpunk on the PS4 is that it's basically unplayable.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
but that
PS5,
was
like,
that was why they delayed it so much. They wanted next gen consoles to come out so you could actually play the game.
The fact that they put it out on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One is just like CD Projekt Red just being like, we have to. We already committed to it. There's a meme of the guy who, there's like one guy who's like, bring out Cyberpunk 2077, and CD Projekt Red's like, it's not ready yet. Like, we want it now. They're like, here's the game. It's full of bugs. It's like, what do you guys want from us? Like, that's how it felt with.
I always
with
like the
Cyberpunk
one where it's
2077.
the kid with his hand out and he's like, sorry, Cyberpunk 2077 has been delayed again. Give it back. Which is basically what's happened with the PlayStation Store. They've taken it off.
Yeah, Xbox did too.
Oh shit! It is being delayed again. They're asking for it back.
Dude,
I just at the end of the day, like you've already delayed it so many times, like who cares if you delay it again?
Yeah.
Like nobody expected you to even actually release it when they did.
Yeah.
I was I was definitely expecting them to delay it again. So it's like, why did you guys just rush out? Like it's like the bad PR you're going to get from delaying it again is way less than the bad PR they're getting now.
Well, I
Well-
think the problem is it doesn't matter how many times they delay it. It was never going to work on PS4 and Xbox One. And they
Right.
kind of confessed as much earlier this year. They said every time we try to run it on PS4 and Xbox One, it's unplayable. And there's no fixing it. You know, it just that's the game they made. They have to basically cancel the current gen console release and say, look, it'll be available on PS5 and the Xbox X or whatever it's called, and PC,
Series.
and that's how it's going to
Xbox
be.
Series. I will say
yeah,
this.
that's
I want to say one more thing about the bad PR. Another reason they were trying to rush it out is because they were getting a lot of bad PR, which this happens with a lot of AAA games, but for hiring a bunch of people to quickly finish it and paying them like triple overtime and working them to the bone. Like I said, happens in all AAA games. But CD Projekt Red hadn't really been known for doing that. And I think to make the deadline, they were doing that. So at a certain point, it was probably easier to release the game so that they could release all of those people and then just work backwards putting patches in. I don't think it's necessarily a better idea, but I think at the time it was probably the more financially feasible one.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean it's a tough position to be in.
Yeah.
And it sucks because I'm sure once it like I bet you 6 months from now the game's gonna be awesome.
Oh, I'm sure.
All the things are gonna be fixed.
I hope
They'll
so.
probably give everybody like a bunch of cool like perks. I'm sure it'll be a ton of fun, and that's why I'm trying to like bide my time to play it. I want to play it because I bought it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I know they just released a hotfix today, so
that's
I might
good.
I might.
Well, I mean,
once I beat.
Yeah. I think the thing that's
Yeah,
really
once I beat the
okay.
Evil Within 2, I'll once I beat the Evil Within 2, I'll probably go back and play Cyberpunk.
I mean, I think the thing that's really telling is that, you know, if you go on their site, they were saying that if you buy it for the PS4, the Xbox One, they'll, as soon as they have one dedicated version for the next generation console out, you can basically upgrade for free. And that's basically communicating, like, this was never really meant for PS4 and Xbox One. This is meant for the next set of consoles. We just didn't figure that out until now, you know.
Yeah, I wonder. It probably wasn't financially viable for them to be like, we're not putting it on the last gen.
Yeah, well, and it's just like they're a medium-sized Polish game studio. They can't eat the loss of delaying it this much. You know, it's ride or die on one game that comes out every, like 8 years or whatever. Yeah. So there's a lot at stake for them financially. So they're in kind of a weird position. Also, I like there was one meme I saw where it's like you delayed it so many times. You said it was going to be polished, and then CD Projekt Red is like, polished? No, it's going to be Polish.
Polish.
Yeah, it sucks because, I mean, we were talking about... Oh, wait, no. That was a different podcast. But, like, The Witcher 3 is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure Cyberpunk is going to be awesome once they fix all the bugs.
Mm-hmm.
I just hope this doesn't, like, destroy them.
Yeah.
And they can't, like, make games anymore or for a while.
I think it'll be okay.
Sure.
I mean, Hello Games just won, I think, best ongoing game for No Man's Sky after like all of the backlash that they got when it first came out.
Yeah, I remember that.
No,
yeah,
it's crazy how that happens now, where games come out and they're just like not good, and then this kind of happened. This is like what happened with Days Gone. I like randomly came across a YouTube video. I like, you need to play Days Gone. Like, they fixed all the bugs. Like, it's actually fun now, and it's only like $10. And I'm sure if I would have bought it at launch for $60, I would have hated it and been very disappointed.
yeah.
But I got it for $10, and all the bugs are fixed, so I had a lot of fun. Same thing with like, I hear Fallout 76 still has issues, but I hear it's like night and day compared to what was at launch. Like, I hear it's like actually like a real game now that you can play.
Dude, like, I hate to bring...
Same thing with like No Man's Sky.
Yeah. I hate to bring
like,
Final Fantasy into it, but Final Fantasy 14, like, horrible launch, terrible launch. They said, all right, well, if you bought Final Fantasy 15, we're going to give you your money back. You don't have to pay. And then when they re-released it, everyone was like, oh my God, this game is amazing. It's going to be like the World of Warcraft, like... It's gonna, go up against it. It'll be the World of Warcraft killer. So it's, give them time. They'll fix it in 2 years.
The gaming business is so freaking weird.
Yeah.
There's so many titles that come out at launch and they're just a hot mess, and then like 2 years later they're amazing.
Yeah, it's weird how that works because like, what other business can do that?
Cats tried it.
And it's weird how
we say that, but the gaming business has there's some horrible things that happen in here. And if you're lucky enough to be able to fix your game 2 years later, like, Jesus Christ, count your blessings. Like, for the record, the fact that Skyrim has survived for like 10 years and they've been able to re-release it as a quote fixed version that's still just as fucked up as the original, like, count your blessings. If you're part of that stuff.
And you can play it on your smart toilet or whatever.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, you can play it on your smart toilet paper.
Smart toilet.
Oh God! Whenever that comes out, 5G, everyone. Every grain of sand can have its own microchip and wireless setting. Jesus Christ! We should wrap up the episode.
Guys, what if the COVID vaccine isn't putting microchips in you? It's putting
Wi-Fi access.
It's putting Skyrim in you.
All right, I think that's a good spot to wrap up on.
Well, we have to do the proper closing though. So, where can you, if you're interested in continuing to follow our crazy ramblings, where do you go?
So you can follow us on Facebook. Just facebook.com/underthewills. You can also email us at underthewillspodcast@gmail.com. You can also go to the website, underthewills.com, and you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts. Are we also on Spotify yet? Or
We're not. We're on
It's
Stitcher.
Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and YouTube. Spotify
Yes.
to come eventually. If you want to read a little more about Possessor, there's an article up on the site for that. If you want to harass us about any of our opinions,
Please do.
Please do.
Yeah,
And
seriously.
Love
you have
that.
many ways to do that. You got YouTube comments, Facebook comments, Apple Podcast reviews, and of course, underthewillspodcast@gmail.com, likely to change sometime soon.
Yep, and then Matt and Austin are on Twitter. I'm at AustinCJ and then what's your Twitter
Oh
handle,
my
Matt?
God, do I even remember? At MA20102, I think.
Okay,
I don't know.
nobody's gonna.
Shows you how much I know
Austin
about my
CJ
Twitter.
Boyd on Twitter.
And this episode is brought to you by The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, available on every game console and coming soon available on COVID vaccine.
Also brought to you by the concept of vaping, which is very pervasive in Possessor. So there you go.
And don't forget to buy Best Damn Root Beer.
And support Wikipedia. Give them $1 so that they'll stop making that pop up on my whenever I search. Just give them some money because that's where all of our links come from.
I think you could still buy Best Damn Root Beer. I don't know. Look it up, guys, and put in promo code Under the Wills.
It won't work, but do it anyway.
Do it anyway. Oh, wait. They're out of stock at Bevmo, so maybe it doesn't exist.
On that note,
Yeah, it's out of stock everywhere. If you can find any Best Damn Root Beer, let us know at facebook.com/underthewills.
or underthewillspodcast@gmail.com. On that note,
Or on a comment in our YouTube video of this podcast. Or on Twitter at AustinCJ or in your review on Apple Podcast, you can also tell us where to get Best Damn Root Beer. All right, I'm done.
are you sure? Are you sure you don't want it like airmailed to you? FedEx overnighted? Give your
P.O. Box 6969.
Oh my God. I'm Matthew.
I'm Gabe.
And I am a Bud Light spokesperson selling you Best Damn Root Beer.
And you've just been Under the Wheels.
I felt like I sounded more like Caitlyn Jenner.
Is that something I need to edit out, Austin? For your...
Is that offensive?
I don't know. You tell me.
I don't think that's offensive.
I would normally just leave it in.
You're the... God, now I'm... Just edit it out. I don't know. Now that we've brought maybe if we didn't bring attention to it, but we brought attention to it.
Finish.